Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm feeling pretty mellow right now, so I may talk slow. if, if it's too slow, feel free to increase me to 1.25 speed or 1.5, and then it'll all go by faster. First, I gotta do a shout out to my brother for this beautiful mug that he got me. I hope you can read it. I think I've shown this mug before, but it always makes me laugh. When this mug cup is empty, it will be time to. Yeah. So, cheers. Hope you're doing well. I had an epic dream of good versus evil last night, which is nothing new. I've been having these since I was a kid, and though they've grown in detail, and this one was pretty long, and I'm not going to share every detail of it because it was actually pretty graphic. It reflected the conflicts that we're seeing in the world right now. It involved a lot of the problems. Like there was a lot of violence in the dream, and even people being tortured, and pretty awful things being done by the the forces of, let's just say, dark. It I always hesitate to start talking in terms of good and evil because that's such biblical language, and I don't favor that. And I also think that when we start thinking of in pure binaries, like, pardon me, sorry, my eyes are itching. When we start thinking of like other people as either good or evil, it makes it easier to wage war on them because we're good and they're evil. When the truth is, in most cases, people are shaded because this is a realm of light and dark, and that's the whole experience. You get to experience your own choices and the ramifications of those choices in terms of what happens and how it makes you feel to act from more from love versus more from selfishness or anger or hate, and you see kind of what comes of it. And I think that there are very few, if any, beings walking the earth who are pure personifications of, let's say, light, like, and conversely pure personifications of dark. However, I do think that there are some here, and excuse me, it's kind of obvious who's on the side, who's on the dark side. Though Mister 45 did not appear in the dream, of course he's been on everyone's mind lately, and I don't want to give him too much airtime or brain time, but he does seem to me to be almost comically so, like almost a pure distillation of darkness, because he doesn't ever do anything that isn't selfish or that is beneficial to anyone but him. And he feels this as an entitlement, and that he should be above the laws that govern everybody else, and separate and revered and treated separately. He wants to be sovereign. And before I went to bed, I actually read an interesting column by David Brooks. I think his opinion columns appear in the New York Times, and he was saying that he was thankful that he wasn't imaginative enough before the coming of 45 to envision how awful someone could be. Like that even though he admits it was a failure of imagination of his part to imagine just how awful 45 would act and Vlad would act. On the other hand, he was grateful for his degree of innocence because it the innocence helped him to continue his optimism, and he expressed how he felt that most people on the whole were good and wanted to do good more than they wanted to do what they know is wrong. And I agree with that. I do. Day to day, you see it. We may not even love everyone in our immediate circles, but and work circles and other things, or your neighbors and things like that. But most of the time, you get the impression from dealing with people that most people are live and let live, and that they don't act from pure malice. And so that's what makes 45 so devastatingly unique. I mean, he will certainly go down in history. He will not be forgotten, but he'll be remembered for all the wrong reasons. And I'd rather be anonymous than to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. So that's a little bit of a wander from where I wanted to start, but the David Brooks column was cool, and like how did he conclude it? There was something he said at the end that I thought was really helpful. Oh shoot, why am I forgetting now? I interrupt and tangent myself, and then I screw it up. Okay, so he was saying, "Oh, most people are good, failure of imagination." I don't know if he specifically referred to Jack Smith, but no, I don't think he did. But he was just saying that basically he thought that the country had to face this. Yes, it's difficult, and then he felt optimistic that all would be okay in the end, even though we were gonna go through more drama. And that was kind of reflected also in my friend Kim Carey's video from yesterday, which also I thought was excellent and reassuring and calming. And I wanted to echo that today because Kim was saying really much the same thing. Pardon me. Pardon me. Always with the allergies. I've been getting the allergy shots, and I think they're helping. But I still get a runny nose. Gross. So, Kim's video yesterday was about how she foresees, more drama ahead with the court cases and everything, but that we were going to get to the right result in the end. And that, in fact, after this whole process and the eventual perhaps exit of Mr. 45 from the stage, that America will actually come out a stronger country. And I can certainly envision a feeling of relief passing through a lot of people when he's either in jail or some kind of confinement, or not necessarily on the planet anymore. Not that I would wish that upon him or anyone, because that's it's never where you want to go with that. It attracts that back to you, as you know. So she was saying that we were meant to see this, that this is part of a historic cycle. It ties in with old energies that maybe are World War II energies that haven't quite gone away, Civil War energies that were never fully resolved, and even issues energies possibly relating to the foundation of the country. Because as I'm sure I've mentioned, sorry, in a previous video, Pluto circles the sun approximately every 250 years. And so the last time Pluto was in this place relative to the Earth was when the country was founded. And so, if we believe that that the if you believe that the gravitational and electromagnetic effects of the solar bodies affects life on Earth, as I do, because we know or already know that the moon does. We see the demonstrable effects. Then we do pass through different cycles. It's a real thing, and the interactions of planets and the way they tug on us here does affect what happens in a mystical, magical, yet also mathematical way. Now, didn't get into all of that. That's my extrapolation, but she was saying that we were meant to see this, and I'm emphasizing the fact that it's part of a cycle. And yeah, watching her video was comforting because she's never an alarmist, and she always looks on the positive side of things, which is something I really admire about her, because I can have a tendency to go a little maudlin. I think my nature might be a little maudlin, even though I try to push against that with humor and optimism. And sometimes, as a songwriter, if I'm in a bad mood, I may even try to write an up song to to remind myself of what's good and to lift myself out of any kind of doldrum by smiling till it hurts. No, smiling until you actually realize that how good you have it in so many ways, as we do here in the West, especially. Generally, we're comfortable. We have more material goods than you could ever possibly need or want. And we're essentially free of war, even though there's a lot of violence with guns that still needs to be addressed. Anyway, I don't want to wander too far from where I was at, but I encourage you to watch Kim's video from yesterday. If you don't know the Kim that I'm referring to, it's Kim Carey. Her channel is called Intuitive View, and she did a video, I think it's called The Next Phase. Oh, and I remember that she said something about Jack Smith and how his role, I don't know if she said that it was fated, or maybe I'm intuiting that from what she said. And I think that's true. She said there's a solidity to Jack, a determinedness. His sense of right and wrong is strong, and he has, I believe she said, unless I'm confusing him with another reader that I watched yesterday, he has a strong faith in the judicial system, and specifically the jury system, because he has seen over and over through his life that the jury system actually works, and that people, on the whole, when they serve in a jury, they do their duty, which is to the truth of the matter. They're not partisan when they are presented evidence that is compelling of someone's guilt. They generally come to the right verdict, and so he believes in our system, and that belief is what allows him to proceed. And yeah, I want to echo that. I mean, and remind everyone watching that it was a Florida grand jury that approved the charges against 45. So Florida, which we think of as a purely red state, still a jury there agreed that the evidence was compelling to proceed. And I also still believe that in time we will see that there will be, I hope, some demonstrable evidence that he either sold or traded state secrets to other parties. It's bad enough that they were just unsecure at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, because there's already a few instances where Chinese nationals, Chinese spies, Like even around 2019, there was a woman who was arrested, Chinese national, at Mar-a-Lago, who had 4 cell phones on her and wasn't supposed to be there, and she was wandering around and probably probably looking for stuff, or at least spying, because the security was so lax. Because that is was his style. He just doesn't care, because he only cares. The only one he cares about is himself. So, yeah, Kim's video was good, and it gets me to a larger point about cycles, because I guess I'm trying to decide the order. I've already avoided talking about the dream I told you I would tell you about for 15 minutes, but I've also got this thing about astrology to show. So let's see. What should the order be? Well, I'll talk about the dream because I'm not going to share a lot of the details because I really can't, because they're so graphic. But the general story was, it was like a story. It was like a movie in which a figure who was representing good was against a figure representing darkness, evil, and evil was selectively causing harm to the friends and family members of the person who personified good. And what good the darkness was trying to wear down the good person by causing harm to things and people that they loved, and making them watch it, making them be a witness to it. And it did cause the what do we call it? The soldier of good, the soldier of goodness. It did cause the soldier of goodness pain, but also the soldier knew that it was a he, but it could have been a she or any gender. Had the person of goodness knew that they had to carry on with their mission and keep their eye on the prize, and the prize was essentially a sort of final confrontation. This is really it's high and it's bothering me. Sorry. Okay. The eye on the prize, so to speak, was what was an inevitable confrontation forthcoming against the big baddie. So it was that in that way, it was like like even like Star Wars, like that the hero, yeah, hero, that's the word I should use. The hero and the villain are eventually going to show down, and so everything that comes before it is just the preliminary stuff. And so this was represented by, well, again, I don't want to get too far into it, by some people that I knew in the dream who were being, yeah, they were being hurt by the villain, and this was meant to cause me pain and try to weaken me in advance of the final confrontation with the villain. But as the hero in the dream, or kind of looking sometimes through the hero's eyes and sometimes from a distance as if watching it like a movie, I knew that I had to remain calm and keep, stay focused, and I also knew that I could call on divine help. I was basically able to invoke the assistance of spirit or God, if you like, and I was presented with basically like a magical. I think it was a small blade. It wasn't like a full sword, but it was like a blade that was for both for self defense and for offense, and that it was divine and couldn't shatter and had great power. And although I didn't witness the final confrontation between the hero and the villain in the dream, I knew that's what the dream was leading up to, and that I felt confident in the dream that the outcome was already predetermined. That, as we've seen throughout history, even though justice takes a long time to arrive, it does inevitably come. Like World War II was quite a crisis, and it was many years in the making. Germany was stewed a long time after World War One, and had great unrest because of their defeat in the First World War, and that's what led to the rise of Hitler and the war that followed. So even though the war itself was maybe, I think, about only 3 years long, everything that led up to it, that was a longer period. Let's say it was like 10 years of this simmering. And so what we're going through is not dissimilar, because this has been growing since 2015 and seemingly reaching a boiling point. And the GOP keeps losing elections, and they're gonna lose again, because there's so much chaos. I I don't see that there's any way that Biden doesn't win again for a second term. To me, that's essentially predetermined too. I don't think I'm being naive about that, because to even have 20 or 30% of former supporters of Mr. 45 not want to see him back in the office, and perhaps withhold their vote. There's a good chance, if he's somehow the nominee again next year, that he could lose even worse than last time. I don't see how he wins, because his base isn't growing, and those are the only ones he's speaking to. Moderates, independents, they're just not going to go for it, because they didn't already, before we knew even more about what a piece of shit he is. He is such a piece of shit. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's if we weren't living it and we were just watching it like a movie, it would be comical, because he is a buffoon. He is comically he's comically stupid, but he's also smart in the way he manipulates people and exploits their weaknesses and exploits their fear. I think that was part of David Brooks's column, to come back to David Brooks, that everything that 45 is based on is negative, nihilistic, destructive. So he's incapable, really, of contributing to building anything. Like, building things comes from trust, cooperation, a degree of selflessness, a collaborative attitude, and those are all kind of much more related to love. And again, he that's so foreign to him. He doesn't understand it or desire to experience it, or perhaps he had some experiences so early in his life that steered him in such a way that this was never going to be part of his existence. It's weird. So, again, we should be thankful that we don't understand him, because it means that we have a degree of innocence that he doesn't. Again, going in circles a bit, but my dream, even though I didn't see the conclusion, I knew that when I invoked divine assistance, when I was in the position of the hero momentarily, it was cool, because I could kind of see a mystical figure come to help deliver this sacred blade for the battle to me, and I knew that I would win. So, to tie that in with what I've recently learned about astrology, I know very little about astrology, but I I always tie it to astronomy because to me they are one and the same. You know, astronomy is the the movement of all of the planets. Well, everything in the universe is moving in relation to, well, everything's in moving in relation to everything else. The universe is forever expanding, but in the grand scheme, the changes are slow from our perspective on Earth. But then over great periods of time, then there are, great distances involved. Anyway, that kind of didn't really mean anything, what I just said. Let me take a sip of coffee and reboot. Hold on. Let me not get distracted by the side stuff. But here's what I learned that I thought was really interesting. Last year, you may recall, gotta get my ears straight, I kept dreaming about cycles, like cycles predicted in various religious traditions coming to an end, and then a new cycle beginning. Like it was matching some Hindu beliefs. I was dreaming about